those fish. What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to have a fun little episode. We're going to talk about swim bait fishing, single swim baits. I'm going to showcase Bailey's setup along with how I fish single swimmers. We're a little bit different. He uses a spinning rod. I like to use a bait caster, so I tend to fish a little bit heavier weights. Going to dive into some underspins, and I'll also give you the rod I use for Okashira heads as well. So I do use a spinning rod for the Okashira head because it's so light. But I want to know your guys' take on this. Has anybody who tunes into this, have you guys used the BFS Corrado yet, or any type of BFS reel? Because I would be really interested in hearing your setup on how to throw this on a BFS setup. Something I want to do here in the future. So inserted, there will be some fish catches using different rods. I have two different setups that I like to use when I'm throwing it on a bait caster. So stay tuned. I hope you guys enjoy. So first, let's dive into the swim baits that I like to use and why. So there's 3 different brands or types of swim baits I like to use. One is a spark shad, kayak in 3 different sizes, and then the rage swimmer in 2 different sizes. And there's reasons for all of that. So first, let's go into the spark shad. So whenever I'm dragging, or the water is really cold, or they're feeding on really little bait fish, but they need a super subtle action, that's when I'm gonna throw the spark shad. Any alloy flake, lemon shad is a great imitator. In super clear water, this stands out like a thumb, and smallies can't stand it. They will eat it like crazy. Second go-to color is purple haze. Awesome. That bait, if I'm casting it on spinning gear, that's where this Okashira 1/8 ounce head comes into handy. Or the spin head, but we're gonna get into that further on in this video. Next bait is going to be the standard old staple Kayak Fat Swing Impact. 3.3 is by far my favorite size. I also use 3.8s and 4.3s. 3.3 is my starting point because most of our shad around here in the Great Lakes, especially where I live, are little. Even on our Finger Lakes, where I'll go to something a little bit bigger is if I want to see if there's a bigger fish in the school. They tend to eat the bigger bait fish, or if I'm throwing an underspin, which I'll get into that as I go through my setups. Colors: smallmouth magic, light hitch, and shad. It's all you need. There are 3 different hues. They're all shad colors. They get chewed. The reason why I like kayaks is they're super soft, so the tail thumps extremely easy. As to where my next bait of choice, I will only use as the water gets warmer because the plastic is a little bit more durable, so it takes more momentum for that tail to start kicking. That's where the kayak is incredible in colder water. It's great in the warm water too, but I really think it shines when the water temp is sub 55 degrees. So the last one is going to be the Strike King Rage Swimmer in 2.75 or 3.25. Only 2 sizes I like in them. It's a good bait. It gets chewed, way more durable. Clients, I have them throw in the Rage Swimmer because I'm not burning up as many baits. This is where I keep the Fat Swing Impacts for myself for most instances, unless the water's cooler and we have to use kayaks. That's when I'm going to use a kayak because they just flat out get bit. All right, as you're watching this, the setup that I'm throwing is, I do believe, the Phoenix M1 rod with a 3.3 Kitech, quarter ounce jig head, dirty jigs, matte Allen jig head with 10-pound fluorocarbon. You'll see that I am working the rod, making the bait hop. We're in relatively shallow water, fishing a big shallow flat. So whenever I make contact with the bottom, I would stop and pop my rod tip just ever so slightly to get that bait to hop up and down. And you'll notice on one of the hops here shortly that a fish just absolutely smokes it. My line went slack. So when you're fishing shallow water, make sure you are doing different things with that swim bait. A lot of times they'll eat it on a single retrieve, nice and steady, but most of the time you got to do something to make them react. So hopefully that little tip there will help you put more fish in the boat. Let's dive in to setups. There's 2 different bait casting rods I like to use, and then a third will be the wild card or the spinning rod when I have to use it. I always try to go bait caster first. So I purchased this rod here in a whim, a little bit more towards the end of the season because unfortunately I had a rod break on a guide trip that was my single swim bait rod. And I wanted to try something else. So what I purchased was the Johnny Morris Carbon Light 2.0, 7-foot, medium power, fast action. The line rating is 8 to 12. It flexes really good all the way down here into the middle of the blink, but all the power is in the tip. Extremely sensitive for a $120 rod. The meat and potatoes of it though is the real SLX MGL 7.2 right hand. I throw all my single swim baits almost always on 10-pound test, especially with smallmouth, because the water is gin clear. The 10-pound allows that bait to swim very naturally in current and it gets down quicker. The heavier line you run in current, it tends to create more drag. So where I like this rod is if I'm throwing like a 3/16 or a quarter ounce head or 5/16. 3/16 and a quarter. I feel this rod can also handle all the way down to an 1/8, but its sweet spot is right around that 3/16 to a quarter, and you can fish it all the way up to a 5/8. I haven't tried it for like a 3/8 ounce or a half ounce head just because I simply haven't had to. I actually bought this rod to throw spooks on because I needed a really good topwater rod when I'm largemouth fishing, something a little longer that can handle bigger baits. So I think that's where this rod's gonna slide in, but it's a phenomenal swim bait rod, 7-foot medium. I'm able to cast that bait really far. Now, a rod that you guys have heard me talk a ton about is this Phoenix M1, 7'2", medium heavy, 1/4 to 3/4. It's a medium heavy fast, but it's very parabolic. I was throwing this with 10-pound test earlier in the spring when I first bought the rod, and I found it was a really good, super sensitive 1/4 ounce swim bait rod. So I'm probably going to go back to throwing this in the spring because I just absolutely love it. You guys will know this rod as my Senko flipping rod and using 3/16 to a 1/4 ounce with the MGL reel. But for $180, this is the most overall do everything rod that I have found, and I absolutely love it. So I don't have the spinning rods up here with me, but the one rod that I would use is something around the 7'4" to 7'6" range. I haven't found one that I specifically like. I was using the Douglas X Matrix 744. Great rod, super light, parabolic. I'm able to cast the Okashira head super far with it on like a 10-pound or an 8-pound braid to 8 or 6-pound fluorocarbon, depending on how deep I wanted to fish in the water column, or even a 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. I just don't like throwing single swim baits on spinning rods unless it is a single bladed well, dual-bladed Okashira spin head. This is one of the few times I will actually throw a spinning rod. Now, it's probably only fair to bring up Bailey's favorite spinning rod setup because, like I said, we fish swim baits very differently. In my opinion, he loves to use a spinning rod, and I am all about the casting gear. So, Bailey's setup, 7'6" Fantasista, medium powered spinning rod. It's incredibly light. I've picked it up. It feels awesome. Very expensive rod, but incredible sensitivity. He has a 2500 Daiwa Pro Scion reel, LT6 3-to-1 gear ratio with 10-pound Seagar Smackdown braid and 8-pound Invisex fluorocarbon. That's really good braid, really good floral. Bailey is an absolute wizard with the single swim bait. He, let's count back here. Last spring we went out, and I hope you guys enjoy this fish catch here, but we're out on the lake, and he was pounding me with this single swim bait that I was like, you know what? I can't throw this football jig anymore. I'm going to start throwing a single swim bait. And he throws almost all the time a 3.25 Rage Swimmer because of durability. And he's ticking the rocks with it very slowly, crawling it on the bottom. And that's just the way he catches them. And he taught me a lot this past spring about throwing single swim baits, and it opened my eyes, but I thoroughly enjoyed the way I do it. So like I always say, and Bailey always says as well, is it's just our opinion. Everybody has their confidence. Everybody fishes these baits. They want to fish them. So take it with a grain of salt. Use the information that we're here to give you and run with it and figure out what works best for you. That's the best advice I can give anybody when it comes to fishing, is because everybody's going to do something their own little way, and it just works for them. So, all right, so as we wrap up here, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate everything. All of our followers and subscribers and future subscribers, all of you rock, and thank you for all of your support. And I hope you guys continue to enjoy these videos that we put out for everyone.